Our next guest is a guitar legend from the post-punk era. As the lead singer of Dire Straits, he notched up sales of more than 120 million records.
And he's worked with the likes of Bob Dylan, Brian Ferry, Eric Clapton, to name but a few. He is Mark Knopfler. And next year he's going to be touring the UK with dates lined up at the Royal Albert Hall. For now, though, he's got a new solo album out. Here's what it sounds like.
I wake up every morning, keep an eye on what I spend. Gotta think about eating, gotta think about paying the rent. I always think it's funny, gets me every time. The one about happiness and money, tell it to the breadline. But you might get lucky now. You win some, you might get lucky now and then. Yeah, you win some.
That's a track from the album Get Lucky. Mark's here. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
It's a lovely sound,
it is lovely,
isn't it? And sort of different sound as well, that sort of Celtic feel about it. Was that different?
Yes, I grew up lying in bed and listening to the music of the foghorns on the Clyde and on the River Tyne a few years after that, when we moved to Newcastle when I was 8. And I remember on the first Dire Straits album, the very first song, I was imitating the sounds of the foghorns with my guitar, trying to swell the sound into... There was a song called Down to the Waterline, and I still remember thinking, I can get a foghorn sound with this guitar here. And I don't think that stuff ever leaves you when you're... There's stuff from childhood and stuff from your youth, very important.
Yeah, you really get the sense that you've gone back to your roots on this. Just one thing really leapt out at me. You have 70 guitars.
Oh, at least.
At least 70.
Yeah.
How many of them do you play on this album?
One or two. I actually don't use many guitars on an album now, but people are very sweet and they give you guitars. There are electric guitars which look like bits of wood and wire. There are acoustic guitars which look like Spanish guitars.
Have you got a guitar that no one's ever touched, including you?
Oh no, it's not quite that Spinal Tap thing. Well, it would if. There are actually guitars that have multiplied in value over the years that I bought quite cheaply, and now, when you get old enough, those things they do increase in value somewhat.
Yeah. What's it like to have a solo album out and leave, I wouldn't say the comfort of Dire Straits, but when it's you on your own creating a quite different sound, what does that feel like?
I had a great time with the band. I mean, it was a wonderful thing to do for a whole number of years. I just wanted to get things back in a bit more scale and get things under a bit more control, and I like the way it is now. I still enjoy very much writing songs. I really enjoy recording them, and I really enjoy going out and playing them for people. So I'm a lucky guy because not everybody likes the entire cycle. Yeah.
One of the tracks on the album is about remembrance, and it's going to be a single, the proceeds of which are going to go to the Poppy Appeal, is that right?
It'll be the British Legion, yes, the Poppy Appeal.
Tell us about the song.
Well, Remembrance Day, I don't really know how it came about. I suppose seeing the cricket team and it's like a roll of names, and the cricket team becomes the remembrance roll, and of course, as you travel around the world and around Europe, playing, and you're walking around places, and you see these all over. You see them in America, you see them everywhere, and there's hardly a family that hasn't been touched by all that, of course. And I think it's been in the news quite a bit over the past few years, certainly in terms of since the Gulf and the Falklands and the treatment of veterans and people who come back injured from these things. And I think it's only underlined the importance of the British Legion fighting for pensions and doing all sorts of things. And I think the government ought to be doing more in terms of that. I don't think that people who come back after having served and suffered should be treated in civilian hospitals, for instance. I think that's out of order.
Well, it's good of you to be putting this on your album, raising money for it. Do you know, it seems, though, when you talk about the album and the sort of influences and the feel of it, that you're quite glad to have just said goodbye to all that big stage stadium stuff. And
Oh, well.
Is that true? And do this because you're doing a much smaller gig, aren't you, at in London?
Well, I'll still do a week at the Albert Hall. I mean, that's about when I get back into London. That's just about what I like. I mean, it's a nice scale. Everybody likes to be there. They're in the boxes. They're all having a good time.
A week, so people will be able to get to see you.
I hope so. Yes. I mean, but that seems about right for me.
Yes. Yeah.
Mark, great pleasure to speak to you. Thanks very much.
Thank you
so
very
much.
And a lovely album.
Oh,
it's
thank
called
you
Get
very
Lucky.
much.